Hey there, Wargamers, and welcome back to another Wargames Delivered video. Be sure to check us out at wargamesdelivered.com if you'd like to use any of the equipment, models, or paint used in the video. You can find those all in the links below in the description. With that said, let's get started. In this video, we will be finishing off Robb Stark from the Song of Ice and Fire Miniatures game. This is the base model from the Lannister vs. Stark starter set. The individual Stark starter set has a completely different model that has the same rules, but there are two alternate sculpts for this model in the game. So starting off here, we're going to start out with Fur Brown from the acrylic line, and we're going to go ahead and cover all of the straps on the model here. There's a belt as well that we will catch a little bit later on. There is some kind of finer detail inside of the chest. There's a big strap going right across his chest here that we're going to go ahead and cover with this color. And just make sure that you use a very small and controlled brush. Make sure that your paint is pretty thin, and you'll probably want about 2 thin coats to really get a solid color on this. And we're also just looking to cover the belt right here with this color as well. He does have another sort of belt above this one, but that one looks a little bit more like it's metal, so we'll go ahead and cover that with a different color in a step later on. For now, we'll just make sure the belt and the strap on his chest are completely covered with the fur brown. And next up, we'll switch over to dark tone from the wash line. And with this, we're going to go ahead and cover all those areas that we covered with the fur brown, just to add some shadows on certain areas. You don't need this to be too thick. Just go ahead and mix it with a little bit of water, and it should run off of the raised areas and sink into the recesses. And once that's dry, we're going to go ahead and switch over into another metallic step here on the Mini. Switching over to True Copper, we're going to use this to line all of the detail metallic areas on the model. So for instance, the hilt of the sword, the lining on his cloak, and the upper belt that we mentioned earlier. And just keep in mind to be especially careful with the True Copper and any metallic really that you use while working with speed paints. They're a little bit hard to clean up. Really any color is hard to clean up on any speed paint and make it look perfect. The best way to get a good result is just paint the area with the speed paint and let it sit until you varnish it. Really you're just trying to keep the integrity of the color of those paints and add some detail onto your Mini here. And as you can see here, just slowly working our way down the areas that need it on the Mini. Feel free to add more paint to your brush as much as you need. You'll probably need about 2 thin coats of this paint. Change the angle of your Mini to make it easier on yourself. I do that all the time. Any way that this can be made a little bit simpler for you, that's the best way to go about it. And we'll switch over to some dark tone again and really add some shadows to this True Copper here as well. As you can see, we hit the hilt of the sword. And this is a step that you can wait till the end to do. We are going to have a lot of steps in this video where we'll be coming back to the dark tone, but I kind of like to do them in between just to kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like once the recess detail is in there. So sometimes I kind of decide afterwards if it needs to highlight or not. Just really kind of informs some decisions about the model that I make. And switching back over to plate mail metal from the previous video, we're going to fill in some of the more raised metallic details on the model here, like the chain link around his chest and the sword most notably here. There's also going to be some other fine details that we'll go over, such as re-highlighting some of the raised areas that we went over in the previous video, and just picking out any areas that make sense. And moving on, we'll go into a even brighter highlight here with shining silver, and we'll hit the entire sword with this, and we'll try to do a little bit of edge highlighting on all of the metallic areas on the model here. Also making sure to use a little bit of the dark tone as well to bring the sword down to the rest of the Mini. We can also use our brush and wipe off some of the excess wash on the bottom of the sword. And then we'll go back to doing some edge highlighting here on the metallics with the shining silver, using this on all of the plate areas on the model. and really any area that you would think needs a highlight. This is also a good time to take this color and use it as a way to kind of clean up some of those edges that got a little bit messy with the speed paints. I know in particular the hands here got a little bit messy around the plate guards and gauntlets that he's wearing. So I wanted to go in and just kind of edge highlight some of those areas and really just make the color really look metallic instead of kind of bleeding into the skin color. Once that step is dry, we will go ahead and switch over to the final step for the video here, and that is going to be highlighting all of the skin areas on the model with Corpse Pale from the acrylic line. This is a very bright kind of skin tone. You'll want to use very thin layers to kind of build up to it on the face, and really just take a few minutes and add some highlights on the face. Adding some extra detail is great for emphasizing your commanders and leaders on the battlefield. So this is really why we do this. On my standard infantry, I don't usually take this extra step, but depends on the models and the game. But yeah, typically I like to highlight my faces of my commanders and units just to kind of make them stand out a little bit more and give them a little bit more emphasis. If you do make any mistakes here, just go ahead and cover the entire face with Corpse Pale. Get it one solid color, and then you'll want to go ahead and switch over to Flesh Wash. I find this a little bit easier to clean up rather than just going back to white and fixing the face. The less amount of layers that you can add to the face, the better, because each layer of paint adds a tad bit of texture. So just keep that in mind whenever you're painting. The more layers of paint you add, the more texture is going to get added and the less detail you're going to have on the miniature. So something to always keep in mind. And once you finish this step off, all that is left to do is base the miniature in the theme of your army. I have a snowy dirt kind of base for these guys with some alien flora here that you'll see in the final shot. And you can keep it very simple like this, or you can go the extra mile with your bases. I like to keep it simple. These Song of Ice and Fire miniatures have a lot of minis. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And also be sure to check us out at wargamesdelivered.com. We have a Refer a Friend program active at the moment. Be sure to just enter in some simple information, and you and a friend will both receive a $10 discount. Thanks again, guys, and happy wargaming.